Morning, Dave.
Good morning. I'm trying to unmute Christine, and she self-muted herself.
Okay. You want me to text her and tell her to?
Well, she should hear me. Self-muted. Well, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Friday Morning Live. Today is April 26th, 2024. A beautiful day in Tallahassee. I'm sure where you are as well listening to this broadcast. So I have a few housekeeping items, and as it says on your screen, we have citizens in the house today talking about some 2024 legislative changes that agents need to be aware of, along with depopulation and the clearinghouse. But most of all, we want to answer your questions. So as we go through the presentation today, if you have questions, we're going to pause in between each section and try to get to those questions as we're going through the broadcast. So as Christine or Carl are presenting, if you have questions, post them, and we'll get to them as many as we can. And of course, like any other Friday Morning Live, if we don't get to them during the broadcast, we'll get you offline. So trying to get Christine. Tendy is self-muted. So we're going to have to figure out Christine, Carl.
Dave, I'm here. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I muted again. It told me I was in listen-only mode. I didn't realize I could fix it.
All right. There's yours truly, Dave Newell. Again, welcome everybody to Friday Morning Live. Just a reminder, we have classes each week. They change. Please get on the calendar and look at all of our web-based training that's available to members. And so just a reminder of that. But the big reminder, there's still time to register and attend our annual convention, June 12th through the 14th at the Rosenshingle Creek in Orlando. I will tell you, citizens will be doing a breakout session. So from this class, if you want to even get more information on what's going on with citizens, certainly plan on attending convention and attending their breakout session. So you can look on the schedule of when they are and what day they'll be appearing at our convention. And certainly the team, as they have done in the last few years, is around. And certainly I'll be glad to talk and meet with you all individually if that makes sense. So just a reminder of that. Again, today's topic is depopulation, legislative, and answering your questions. So unfortunately, I didn't get a picture of Christine in time, so just have our friend Carl Rockman, but we'll bring Christine in as well. And before I turn it over to them, a reminder, May 10th, we'll have a post-legislative update from FAI with Kyle, Laura, and BG. So put that on your calendar for May the 10th. So with that in mind, Carl, I'm going to go ahead and elevate you so you can take control of this. Make Carl, oh, wrong one. I want to make Carrie the person. Make you a presenter. Yes. All right, Carl, as we make the transition, there you go. I appreciate both Carl and Christine being on today. Christine, as you see on your screen, is the Chief of Communications, Legislative, and External Affairs. Christine has been around FAI for many, many years, as long as I have been in FAI. Christine,
Okay, Dave, let me know if you can see the screen.
We can see it. We can see it, Carl.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. Okay, great. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm going to turn it over to Christine, who's going to give us an update on the legislative issues that happened this year. Christine, please take it away.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Dave, for having us today. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I know you all have gotten report outs from FAI, and they do such a great job, but I did just want to highlight really what did and didn't pass in the 2024 session, specific to citizens, but also touch very high level on some of the industry related items as well. Most of our bill, this bill that Chairman Jim Boyd, who all of you are familiar with, I'm sure, Senator Boyd sponsored for us in the Senate, and then Representative Tiffany Esposito in the House. She's out of the Fort Myers area, impacted by Ian area, and of course, Chairman Boyd is from Bradenton and Manatee County, it's a little further north of Representative Esposito. A lot of what was in this bill, I would call cleanup and administrative items that are not specific necessarily to our mission, but do allow us to have some efficiencies and protect some stuff that we work on. So I was going to give a quick highlight, but I think the items in this bill that probably have the most interest, I would imagine, in the agent population are the first bullet. As you all know, there is legislation that was passed during the special session that requires citizens to require flood coverage for eligibility on a stair-step level. First, it was those special high hazard zones. And then right now, anyone with a policy with a coverage A value statewide of 600,000 or above must have flood, going to 500,000 next year, and so on and so forth, until all citizens policyholders will be required to have flood beginning in 2027. So what we've learned as non-flood experts as we've implemented this provision, that was not, by the way, something citizens recommended, but we are implementing, is that the contents policy with flood is its own policy. Many people do not carry it. And the law, as it was originally drafted, did not contemplate separation of contents and dwelling. What we've heard from many of you and many of your colleagues is that we've got an issue with Flood 2.0 and the glide path, that if you didn't already have a contents policy, and we're now requiring you to get a contents policy to have contents coverage with citizens, it can be cost prohibitive, or we've also seen some of our insureds drop contents with citizens. So this bill, upon becoming law, which the governor, if he doesn't have it now, I know that they are briefing him, so he should have this bill pretty quickly. Upon becoming law, we will no longer require that you have a contents policy for eligibility purposes with citizens. It does limit this requirement to a dwelling policy available through NFIP or obviously a private carrier. So hopefully that will be one less thing that is on the list of things for you to do with your customers as they are looking for coverage and need to come to citizens because of where the market has been, although the market is, as you guys I hope know, starting to look a little more positive. As you also know, we merged our three accounts, the personal lines account, coastal account, and commercial lines account in January of this year, also an outgrowth of the special session. We had outstanding indebtedness when we were created of the predecessor entities, and so we have this three account structure. This strengthens our financial position as it relates to our being able to combine our surplus and some administrative efficiencies. So there was a lot of obsolete language in our statute that we've now, under this bill, have stricken, which will, for those of us who work in our statute, will at least shrink the size of our statute. Additionally, this bill does require that an agent be appointed with at least 3 admitted carriers to be appointed with citizens. Current law says you have to have 1 active appointment with another carrier to be appointed with citizens. We do look at this by coverage type. So if commercial lines residential, personal lines residential, and then commercial non-residential, we look at those separately by carrier. And so Carl's team is working on that. And if you are an impacted agent, I don't imagine any of your you independent agents are probably going to have a problem with this. We will be notifying those agents who do not meet the requirement for any of those types of business that I just mentioned. The next couple of items relate to procurement with citizens. We had some differences between how we handle procurements and the state agencies do, so we're better aligning ourselves there, which should hopefully create some efficiencies as it relates to bid protests. As you guys all know, we are in the CHIPS version of the clearinghouse as we work to implement the new vendor, and that was delayed due to a bid protest that took longer simply because we had to wait for a regularly scheduled meeting of the board. And so now we would allow our executive director to make a final decision following a bid protest that has gone to the Division of Administrative Hearings. We also at Citizens, we do create and build systems and technology on our own. Not necessarily, we try not to, but we have done that. There's a prohibition in state law from applying for trademarks, copyrights, or patents, and we are now piggybacking in our statute on an exception to that law, like what state universities do. If we build intellectual property at Citizens, right now there's nothing that would stop somebody from leaving and taking it with them and creating it as their own, or selling it to another vendor. We want to protect that. Another important thing in the fraud and abuse world, we are not, under current law, allowed to share the same level of data with the National Insurance Crime Bureau that private carriers do because of the confidentiality of our records under state law. Our claims files, are confidential and exempt from public record for obvious reasons. This bill will allow us to share more data with the NICB in the fight to stamp out fraud. As you can imagine, if Citizens data is missing from the full picture of data in Florida, that really does hinder DFS, CFO Petronis's team, in their efforts to look at crime rings and things like that. So this will allow us to better participate and hopefully help them get a full picture of what might be going on across bad public adjusters or trial lawyers, or other bad actors as they see patterns across companies. And then I think the last item is I think a potentially big item. There is language that would allow surplus lines insurers with a Florida-based surplus lines agent to participate in depopulation for non-primary residences, which, remember, are for those who do not occupy the home 9 months out of the year, or but does not include renters, those who have a dwelling policy if they have a long-term lease in place with a renter. Those are considered primary, as many of you know, for rating purposes. And then also on top of that, for this provision, they would also have to be non-homesteaded properties, which is 6 months plus 1 day. So that's a broader provision. I think right now, Carl, although I haven't looked at the data since the most recent depop, right now in total, we have about 75,000 non-primary residences. I imagine that number of allowable takeout policies for surplus lines insurers would be even smaller when we run the homestead data, which is something we're working on doing now. And we will have more information on how we plan to implement that. There are no companies lining up right now to do this. There is a potential company that would like to, that was behind this effort, that would like to look at this. I think an important thing to note is consumer choice does still apply. So if you as the agent are, we're not going to take this policy away from you. This is going to work just like our admitted carrier depops as it relates to the 20% rule and consumer choice. I think those were important provisions that your team at FAI worked hard to ensure were included in this language ultimately as it passed. Next slide, Carl. Just real quick, there was a consumer protection bill championed by the CFO, Jimmy Petronis, again, I think positive, giving consumers more time to potentially cancel a roofing contract after an emergency. You all know, those of you who have been in areas where hurricanes have hit in recent years, the bad acting that occurs. This just gives consumers an opportunity to potentially get out of that contract for a longer period of time if they are swindled into it or unsure what they're signing, or I've worked the storms as many of you have for your customers. It's so overwhelming when someone's home has been damaged, or their business, or their car, or their boat, or all of the above. And making sure that people have an opportunity to look and take a look at what they've signed, know what they've obligated themselves to. I think this is a positive change. Small change in the public adjuster world to include the license number of a public adjusting firm in their contract. They are also going to require larger font and bolded font for the notice of change in policy terms beginning in January of next year, to help ensure that consumers are actually reading that and know what they're, and maybe making it more stand out more in the contract or in the renewal. And then also, and I think, Dave and the FAI team can speak to this, this was something that was championed when the claims filing deadline from an event has been changed to 1 year and then 6 more months for a supplemental claim under current law. I think there were some concerns about what happens if you have a notice for a claim for loss assessment coverage as a condo unit owner. Clearly, after a covered event, a hurricane, your condo association may not know in 1 year that they have to actually levy and assess an emergency loss assessment on their unit owners. And so this just better states how that will work defines what the loss event is as the date of the covered loss, and provides 3 years after the date of loss for a consumer to then file that claim with the company. As you guys know, if you haven't been assessed, there is no loss, right? And so ultimately, this is just to ensure and clarify how this coverage will work going forward. So everyone's contracts, carrier-wise, will change with respect to this change. Next slide, Carl. One other thing, the Office of Insurance Regulation had a bill that did pass. It does require monthly data as opposed to quarterly data for the Quasar system. And right now that's done at the county level. And as of January of next year, it will require carriers to report to OIR at the zip code level. I think this is going to improve what data they have. As you all know, lots of questions around this market, and the more data that OIR has, the better we are, just generally to be able to help the legislature make informed decisions as things need to change, and also for them to see trends as they're happening, to get ahead of what might be coming as they see things change and who's writing where, what's going on, all of those types of things. It does change how average models could be used in rate making. Not a big change for citizens, but it is something we're looking at. And then it does repeal language that would have required citizens to treat consumers coming from unsound or insolvent insurers as non-primary residents with respect to the 50% rate cap, as opposed to the regular rate cap, which is right now, is at 13%. So that is being repealed. We had never had an insolvency under this law, and there were never rates approved under this provision. So really just a cleanup of a statute that wasn't being utilized anyways. And then I'm sure, as many of you have seen, the governor did propose, and the legislature has passed, tax credits for 1 year beginning October 1 to September 30th of next year on insurance bills. The insurance premium tax is one of them. The state fire marshal trust fund is another. So the state will be funding those taxes into those buckets, as opposed to us charging them as an industry and then remitting those to the right sources in state government. So that's a little bit, hopefully, of premium relief, not a rate relief, but obviously a surcharge relief for consumers for a year. And it will be stated on the declarations page so that consumers can see what they are not being charged because of these tax credits that I anticipate will be signed by the governor, since obviously he championed this as part of the tax package. And then quickly, I think it's important to see, we had a really busy session. Next slide, please, Carl. And I don't want to take too much time on this, but I'm happy to answer any questions. There were lots of proposals. There were 6 citizen-specific bills, or bills that touch citizens. That's a lot. One of them was the bill that we championed. The rest were not in an official capacity, although some of these proposals were not surprising. There were various proposals to look at that coverage A limit that is at 700,000 in 65 counties, and then Miami-Dade and Monroe have that $1 million statewide cap. Obviously, you all were the front lines of this issue as it relates to inflation and the inflation factors these last couple of years. I think this has settled down a little bit, although I'm sure all of you could tell me differently, and I think it varies depending on where you are in the state. None of those proposals ultimately passed. I think this is not the end of this conversation, and if I were a betting woman, which I am not, I would anticipate that if there is a resurgence of this issue, that second bullet that would allow OIR to deem an area of no competition at the zip code level versus the countywide level is probably the most likely to see the light of day again. I know for a fact that Broward County has been a ground zero of this issue, Palm Beach, I'm sure, as well. And as inflation has continued to rise over these last couple of years, we've seen it in many areas of the state. This would give the OIR more granularity in their ability to actually look to designate an area of no competition. I think there are parts of Broward County that could get there via zip code, but when you look at West Broward, there has still been a market where I think the commissioner has been unable to get there at the countywide level, as an example. There was also provision that would have eliminated the current statute deeming commercial res wind-only risks ineligible for coverage if 50% or more of the units are rented 8 or more times per year. That did not ultimately pass, but that is something we have been hearing a lot about. There was an idea to require citizens to create a condo windstorm pilot project for ACV, for condo associations under certain circumstances. Our concern on that, candidly, was less about the public policy of the concept and more about the fact that it was a citizens only program, and as such, we'd be the only game in town, which could make more condos eligible. I do believe there may be a Fannie and Freddie issue with this ACV concept, and we have provided the bill sponsor, Representative Cassell, some information to that effect on whether if there's someone with a mortgage in the building, that an ACV policy with the association would not be deemed compliant for Fannie and Freddie purposes. And then there was an idea for us to look at the wind-only boundaries around the state. They are a little disparate and inconsistent because they were done over a series of years, many, many moons ago prior to Citizens. That bill did not pass, but I would anticipate that this might be something that might come back in a future session. And then the one that really kept me up at night, and hopefully many people up at night, would require citizens to write wind-only coverage statewide, and basically would shut the market down in a way that more than anything, it would put us at the front of the game, not the back of the game for wind-only statewide, but also didn't contemplate actually sound rates for that coverage, meaning we would be competitive probably just about everywhere. This was super concerning to us. There was no Senate companion. The bill was not heard in committee for a vote, but there was a workshop, and I will tell you that if this bill had passed and we were writing all of the wind in Florida, or the majority of the wind in Florida, and we had a Hurricane Andrew, we would have a $65 billion assessment. Our assessment base is about $73 billion, which means all of your customers, and you also, all of you, would be required to pay almost 100% of your premium in an assessment on all eligible policies, which are all policies except for workers' comp and medical malpractice. So your auto policy, homeowners policy, boat policy, business coverage, all kinds of coverages. You'd owe us over time almost 100% of your current premium. This bill did not go anywhere, thankfully, and I'm hoping that the wonderful presentation that our CEO, Tim Serio, did in committee put the proverbial nail in this concept's coffin for now. If you are interested in seeing some of the data we put together, I'm happy to share that with Dave, and he can put that out as a follow-up. But that was definitely a concept that had us up at night and had citizens concerned about, and candidly the impact to the state as a whole. And with that, Dave and Carl, that's all I've got. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Christine, thanks as usual. Just an awesome job. But one question did come in. Have any of the bills that you talked about that passed, have they been presented to the governor yet?
No, I have not looked this morning, but as of yesterday, they had not. I will tell you, I received a note from the governor's office asking me for our talking points on 1503, which leads me to believe that they are briefing him, and those bills should be coming anytime now.
So just remind everybody, Christine, how this works when the legislature passed the law, but it really doesn't go into effect till the governor signs it or once it's presented to him. Just remind everybody that process.
Yeah, so obviously hundreds of bills are passed each session. I think we're in the 200 plus range this year. And the governor has so much time following receiving the bill to act on that legislation, or it becomes law without his signature if he doesn't veto it. Clearly, there's a structured way that the legislature and the governor try to work together, their staffs, on when he receives bills, and he usually receives them in packages that relate to similar. And he'll get a package of insurance bills. And he also has to work on the line item veto process for the entire budget. So there's a lot of work to be done. And so governor received a bunch of education bills, and then he has so much time to act. And so they time out when they send the bills to the governor so that his office is not inundated in briefing him and making sure they have an opportunity to timely act. Most bills are effective July 1 unless otherwise stated. Like I mentioned in House Bill 1503, that bill is effective July 1st, except that the dwelling only flood requirement is effective upon his signature. So that's why we're working hard on that one. So I would anticipate, given the questions I've received from his office, and I'm actually, as I'm talking to you, Dave, looking up the bill right now to see if he's received it. Yep, he did actually, he got it yesterday. So he's got to act on 1503 by the 10th of May. So this one is in the hopper for signature right now. So he did just receive it, which is why I received a question about what's in the bill and some talking points from his staff earlier this week. So I would anticipate that we'll hopefully see him sign the package of bills he received on insurance, or act on them, I should say. Can't guarantee signature. Act on those bills in the next week or so.
Okay. Yep. Awesome. Again, a reminder, folks,
Finally, we're on the clock.
as we go through each section of this, if you have questions, go ahead and post them. We'll try to address them throughout the broadcast. So thanks again, Christine. Awesome job.
Thank you. And as always, thank you to FAI, to Dave, to your team, the partnership that we have and the support that you all provide us during the session for good public policy relating to citizens is much appreciated on our end.
Well, thanks. As you know, Christine, the relationship has been longstanding, and we continue to work together to try to make the best outcome for agents. So thanks again.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well,
All
thanks,
right,
Christine.
Mr. Rockman.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Newell. Carl Rockman, Vice President of Agency and Market Services. For the balance of our time, I'm going to take us through some areas of interest to our agency owners and agents out there. I'm going to talk briefly about the market, just very high level where Citizens is, but then I'm going to get into 4 specific areas that are impacting agencies every day. We've got to talk about depopulation. We're going to talk about the clearinghouse and give you guys some awareness on where we are and where we're headed. And I want to touch briefly on primary, non-primary, and flood. Those are 2 areas of operations that we hear all the time agents are dealing with, and we want to make sure we're offering the right levels of support. And then, Dave, we definitely want to take any questions on those topics or anything. So I'm going to move through this at a fairly rapid clip and pause for questions on those topics. Very quickly, agents are always interested in how many agencies and agents do we have at Citizens? 6,078 agencies and 12,000 appointed agents with 3,000 licensed customer reps. So again, the size of Citizens is driven by our agency force. And obviously we have one of the more significant agent footprints literally in America. We do have agencies broken out. We always like to emphasize that not all agencies are created equal. You'll see that in our agencies with 200 or more policies, okay? You can see that we have in tier 1, 2, and 3. 80% of our PIF is in about 20% of our agencies, but that doesn't mean that our tier 4s and 5s don't need support and don't need help. Our overall goal is to make agencies hopefully less dependent on Citizens, and I think that's in obviously everyone's best interest. But we're always asked, what are we at agent count wise, and we like to present that. Very quickly, here's the journey back to 2011. Everyone's familiar with this story. The trend line goes down. It started to climb, but we're signaling, right? We're signaling a little bit of improvement here, both in the actual trend and in some things that we're projecting. Again, thank you to all the agents out there that are making this line happen through the various programs that we have. Quickly, residential. Okay, so here's our residential. I want to show you commercial in a minute. Here's the residential story back to 2022. Okay, what I want to show you is obviously the policy count is the green bar, or this line here. The issue here is just the trend line altogether. But while we're going to talk about depop in a minute, we're still continuing to see new business come in. 38,000 a month, 33 a month, 28 a month, 33 a month, 38. We know there's market dynamics out there that are driving that. Depop is having some intended effect, but we're still seeing some of the same trend lines in new business, and we're going to be working on that very diligently. In commercial, okay, a lot of you know the commercial story where our in-force building count went up. And also, if you remember last year, where we started to see new business policies come in that May, June, July, August timeframe and September timeframe. We're staffed to respond. We're on the balls of our feet as the market turns, and a lot of those renewals are coming in on commercial. We encourage agents to get that business in advance so our underwriters can take a look at it. And we're obviously here to support the commercial markets as well. But obviously some growth in commercial, but we'll talk about how that's impacted in depop. And then overall, this is Citizens, both our new business policy count and our trend line. Again, the trend line slightly decreasing, which is a good sign. And we're often asked, well, what's our market share? Right now, we're about 14% of the market, which obviously you don't want Citizens to be 14% of the market. And we're working diligently to make sure that we're doing everything we can to transfer consumers to the private market, and agents are at the center of that. And we want to make sure you're getting the support you need, okay? And overall forecast, long term, we're looking at it. We're optimistic if we have a good storm season, if depop kicks in. These are the 3 numbers that we're looking at right now where Citizens could end up potentially at the end of the year. and we're going to be working diligently to make sure this trend line goes down and to the right is our overall goal. But we need your help, and thank you for everything you're doing. Okay, I'm going to talk briefly about depop, and then I'll take a pause. So quickly, depopulation. Thank you. I always start every conversation with agents when it comes to depopulation by saying thank you. Depop is not a postcard or a letter. It's an agent having a conversation with a consumer about what's best for them. Okay. And last year in 2023, just to recap, 270,000 policyholders found their way to the private market through depopulation. This year, 2024, already 114,000 consumers have found their way to the private market. One of the interesting stories about depop, though, is the premiums. The carriers have gotten the message. The carriers are getting a lot more precise about their choices. And we're very pleased, and I think you've seen it, that the offers are coming in with estimated premiums that are within 20% of Citizens or even less than. 29,000 of these 114 had a estimated premium less than Citizens. 78,000 was within 20%. A key to depop working is that price proximity. The carriers get it, and we get it. Okay, and thank you for everything you're doing to make sure the customer is well served when those depop offers come. A small part of the story too is commercial lines. Okay, a shout out to Homeowners Choice who set up CORE. Okay, some of you have had a chance to participate in the CORE depopulation. Very pleased with what they've been able to do. While the numbers are small in commercial lines, right? Only 321 assumed. The exposure removed is enormous. Okay, so we really love the fact that HCI has been able to step up. We're optimistic other commercial carriers will come in and participate. But thanks again to the agents that helped CORE effectively transition a little bit of business over to them from Citizens. Okay, we often get the question, but it all comes back. Not true. I want to let the agents know out there that we rigorously measure, we rigorously look for policies that have had a renewal offer made to them or a depop offer made to them. If they show up at new business, we see it and we watch it and we make sure that it's eligible. Okay, so this is the stat so far for the depops we've run since June and how many have come back as new business. Some can return. Okay, there are customers that are eligible to return as new business under certain rules, but we want to let everyone know that we're rigorously measuring this. It is important that if a renewal has gone out or a depop offer has gone out at renewal, that the customer acknowledges that at new business, they're aware of the offer, and it needs to be appropriate for them to come back to Citizens. And then just a quick touch, we do have the program. Okay, for those of you out there that are dealing with depop, we did set up a program if the customer can return under the eligibility rules, a reminder that that program exists. Okay, so if something were to change both in the carrier offer price or in the Citizens price when they actually renew, then you obviously can trigger this program. We're getting good reviews on this in terms of its ease for the customer and ease for the agent. And we're happy to have it as part of the program. But the goal is, obviously, let's hope these folks can find a place in the private market. Okay. With that, Dave, I'm going to pause just for a quick second. I know depop is a huge issue, and I want to take any questions that might be on anyone's mind relative to depop.
All right, well, that's good. We got a couple, Carl. So our friend Scott is asking, some of these mandatory assumptions won't actually renew for almost a year. How reliable do you think these premiums are since they're being quoted so soon before the actual renewal will be issued?
Well, I think, Scott, I think what you have to do is look at the frequency of carriers' rate increases. I think obviously depops that are offered at the extreme side have maybe a little bit more risk of a carrier taking a rate before that could happen. And obviously Citizens is going to take rate adjustments. I'm not quite ready to tell you exactly when, but obviously we have to go to our board to get those approved first. But I think the farther out you are, the more chance that the estimated premiums could fluctuate a bit. That's why we have the return program, okay? And obviously, another moment of truth for agents is when that actually renews 10, 11 months out, maybe the offered price went up from the depop company, maybe Citizens is different, but it's a shopping opportunity, folks. If you have another carrier out there that you can place those folks with, have at it. We hope that's the case. But a good thing for agents to be looking at, and I would say that carriers are allowed to take rate increases. We want them to take rate adjustments, and Citizens will as well. And that's the other thing to factor in, that we want to try to take our rates up as close to the glide path as we can. So the calculation on 20%, obviously is a little bit more subject to change the farther out you are.
All right. Based on that 20% comment, our friend Eric wants to know, is an insured eligible to return based on the takeout offer having limited water coverage? For example, oh goodness, we had another question come in and he messed me up here. Hold on, Carl.
Right.
Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Hold on. For example, a takeout offer from limited water that was eligible for full water and the full water rate being over 20%. How are you guys looking at that from your perspective?
We're looking at it as the Office of Insurance Regulation has approved the form that they're offering the depop on, and what form is appropriate to attach to the citizens book of business. We just look at it very cleanly, right? I know that we do acknowledge that there are coverage differences inside some of these policies that the takeout companies have. There are coverage differences, okay? We acknowledge that, but with the approval of the office has deemed it appropriate to go ahead and make that offer. So I would tell the agents, I would look at the offer of from the depop company on the form that's been approved by the state insurance department, by the OIR, and the complimentary citizens form that they're currently on. It goes no further than that, and that's where the price is calculated, and that's how the eligibility is determined.
I've heard that some carriers have rescinded their takeout offers. Is that significant in terms of numbers? We have not had a client impacted, just curious. I guess
No,
I'm hearing that from some of his friendly competitors.
There's a little nuance where the carriers, obviously when they make the offers, okay, there's a thing called reweighting where carriers will make offers, consumers will make choices, or depending on what we call the take rate, the carriers, before the assumption is closed, right, can do what's called a reweighting, where they'll say, I know I made this offer to you, but because of where the exposure balanced and where it ended up, I'm going to rescind these offers and not offer a depop. That's the most common scenario. There are some, I'll say, some one-off cases where there might be a special circumstance or something that's discovered, and we work those out, but those are very, very limited. The big thing we see is during the assumption period, an agent might have 20 depop offers from carrier X, and maybe they end up with 15. That's because of that reweighting piece that we allow the carriers to do to make sure they're balanced before the assumption goes final.
Okay. I think we've kind of addressed this question from Rick, but I'll just go ahead and ask it. I've been seeing the depops that are assumed their premiums for the renewals are higher than estimated. Is there any way to get a closer offer? I think we've kind of addressed that, Carl, but any other comment about, because some of these policies are being quoted well in advance of the renewal.
Yeah. We constantly look at it, but you have to think about how fluid this is. We want the carriers to make the offers. We definitely want citizens, definitely wants to take that exposure and move it out of our books onto the carrier books on the assumption day. Okay, so we want that to occur. Good for citizens, right? Good for us to reduce, because remember, that's what depop's about, fundamentally, reducing our exposure and the assessment risk, okay? We acknowledge that the farther out you are, rate dynamics will come into play, both for the carrier and for citizens, right? But other than, say, we're only going to run depops within a certain, shorter month-to-month period, that would be probably the only solution, but that's not as good for us or as good for the carriers, potentially. So we think the best thing to do is give the carriers a broad view, allow them to get out there and look at risk across a longer platform, allows them to make those offers. Okay, so right now we're aligned and committed to the process as it exists. That's why we came up with the return program, okay? But also want to make sure that the agents are getting the information and knowledge they need. But rates, guys, the qualifying offer, boom, and then it will change when it comes. It could potentially change on the actual renewal date.
All right, let's bring Christine back in. Christine, did any legislative changes during the 23 or 24 session allow citizens to begin canceling risks with damages from Hurricane Ian that are not fully repaired?
No, there was not change in related to citizens specifically. There were some clarifications on the existing damage. The way the existing damage is handled in, in this, the commissioner's bill, but there were not wholesale changes, and there were not changes specific to citizens handling of existing damage.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Carl, I think we're caught up.
All right, let's go. All right, so I'm going to move us from depopulation to another very, very important element of your citizens' relationship. Okay, one of the benefits of coming to Friday Morning Live is you get a little bit of advanced news, okay, on what's about to happen. And hopefully these next 2 slides will give you some information that will be valuable to you. I think every agent on the call today is familiar with the clearinghouse program. Stood up a little over 10 years ago, statutorily driven. Citizens is required to have a program that does what? Make sure that enforcement of citizens' premium comparison eligibility rules and to allow carriers to present to agents. Okay, that's the purpose of the clearinghouse program. Now, we had a solution in the past that everyone's familiar with. We pulled that solution a few months ago and went to what's called our interim program. What's the interim program? A lot of you are familiar with now. We're putting more on you to validate at point of sale and to prove to the underwriters that you've done that through document upload. And thank you. The conformance on that has been very, very good. We're very confident that agents are living into the requirement to present those risks to the private market and prove to us that they did. But guys, that process is manual, and I want to get you out of it as quickly as possible. Plus, it varies by agency, as you can only imagine, okay? We are about to move into, very quickly, within the next couple of months, our Citizens Reimagined platform is about to hit the street. Okay, what is it? Why did we do it? Why did we move to a different platform to administer the clearinghouse? The first among equal is this bullet, and this association and our agent roundtable and feedback over the years told us one thing. Can we please improve the agent experience related to submitting something to the clearinghouse? Please, please, please. This will do that. Okay? So I'm saying first among equals, improve the agent experience. Okay? Also, a shorter application process. That's essentially one and the same. The other thing we wanted to accomplish was improve the carrier reach. We wanted to have carriers on there, more carriers, so what? So customers could be validated against the broadest carrier reach possible, okay? That carriers that you're appointed with, all right? So these are things, this is the why we did it, okay? We contracted and awarded, went to the market, and we've awarded the contract to Applied Systems, and we'll be using their EasyLinks platform. Now, Applied has multiple platforms, but some of you are familiar with EasyLinks, okay? EasyLinks will be the platform that we administer the clearinghouse on going forward, okay? We're making some tweaks and enhancements. Applied have been great partners. The EasyLinks you know today might not be the EasyLinks you know as we move forward in this, but essentially, if you think of what EasyLinks is, that's going to be the platform that we administer the clearinghouse on. When are we coming, okay? Roughly June, July-ish, you're going to hear a lot more communication from us where we're essentially going to provide our rates on the current EasyLinks platform, and Citizens appointed agents will be provided a property-only EasyLinks account from Citizens. Okay, we're going to stand that up in July. You'll use that EasyLinks account to validate your new business like you're doing today up here with CHIPS. Okay, they'll still be manual. Q1 of next year, EasyLinks will start working like the old clearinghouse did, where it's all going to be mechanized. You'll plug it in, it'll bounce against the carriers, and you won't be able to advance to Citizens unless it's absolutely been certified mechanically 100%. So we're going to go manual first in July-ish, and then we'll be doing Q1 next year, okay, in terms of full new business quoting with automated checks. Renewals down the road, okay, with Applied, renewals down the road. Right now, we're very, very focused on new business. Okay. Dave, any questions on this? I know this is a lot to absorb. I know you and I had a conversation about this, but I think the takeaway for the agents is right now, everyone is going directly into Policy Center to process and submit new business. When we stand this up, you'll be for homeowner and for dwelling. Those are the two products that'll be on this. For homeowner and dwelling, you'll go to EasyLinks to validate your shopping and show us that you did that as you submit. Okay, that's going to be the big change that's coming, along with giving Citizens appointed agents that don't currently have EasyLinks the account to get into EasyLinks. You can expect training and communication. We're working with Christine's team now to really blow this out, but today's really about awareness on it And you can expect a bulletin from us very, very quickly outlining the details. And then as we roll out any big platform with citizens, we'll do the job: webinars, communication, field manager engagement, et cetera. But Dave, any questions?
Yep. Let's hit them. So our friend Kim wants to know. They're popping in. Hold on, Carl. It moves when a new question comes in. Do agents need to pay for an EasyLink account? We are not using EasyLinks now.
No. What we're signaling is we will be providing, and wait for more detail, but it's not EasyLinks with auto, and it's a skinny version of EasyLinks that will allow you to quote the Florida property carriers. That's what Citizens will be providing to you.
All right, cousin Bob wants to know, if you have an EasyLinks account, will Citizens be added?
Yes.
Yeah, that was easy. All right, let me see. And I guess you're using EasyLinks because they're a part of Applied. Somebody's asking about other alternatives.
Right. And I would say that our great partners at Applied are very anxious for us to start getting the word out officially. Think of today as kind of a commercial. We're socializing with you. We have an unbelievable comm strategy coming, but the Applied folks are ready to start reaching out to their current customers to talk to them. Okay. So if you're currently on Applied, those folks are going to get with you as soon as this word becomes very official, which is starting to. And I would just say reach out to your Applied reps for questions and things you have on current Applied systems and what they may be able to do for you.
So agents have, of course, EasyLinks is not the only platform, right? So if agents are using another, a competitor, how is this going to impact them?
Well, right now we're not really putting our rates onto other competing quote platforms, right? We don't really have our rates displayed. We're assessing that. I would say internally right now we're very, very committed to this platform. We want to make sure we're supporting this platform because it is obviously the clearinghouse platform going forward. But we'll sense and respond, right? We'll have to. But right now we're very focused on this. If you're an agency out there looking for Citizens rates on additional platforms, I would say just stay tuned at this point. We're not quite ready to probably make that commitment because we're fully focused on this right now to make sure this is implemented.
So to close the loop on that, Carl, basically, if you're using an alternative platform and you want to quote Citizens, the platform is applied in EasyLinks, and if you don't have that, Citizens will provide that to you at no cost for this purpose.
That's the way to look at it. And for those agents out there that might be thinking, well, I'm on another rater and I'm shopping my business, and now I have to go over to this machine to qualify if I need Citizens. I would say, yeah, in the short term, that absolutely is true. But remember what you used to have to do with the old clearinghouse anyway. Remember, right. You used to have to spin over and do it. If we've done anything with this, is if you need Citizens, we're absolutely certain that your agent experience is going to be improved. Okay, so should you need to go over there, and then agents will naturally make choices in terms of agency operations and what's best for them. Okay, but we are going to need every agent's support because we'll have all of our agents on a consistent platform to make sure things are shopped. That's what the purpose of the program is. Keeps things honest, keeps things consistent. That's everybody's best interest. But that essentially will be the journey we're going to be on. Manual at first, very steady rollout, and then obviously mechanized checks coming Q1 next year.
Yeah, I think the additional questions are related to other platforms. I think you've kind of addressed that, Carl. But again, folks, working with Christine and her team, there's going to be a lot of communication in and around this. So some of that will be addressed going forward for sure. So I think we're good. We pretty much have touched on, the majority of the questions in and around the Applied EasyLinks platform. So
yeah, appreciate that. And for the agents here, again, this is really just high-level awareness. We couldn't have the session today without giving you a little peek, but there is a lot of communication coming right behind us, and we'll be with you every step of the way. Okay. Okay. Excellent. All right. So the two other issues I want to hit on real quick are primary and flood. Okay. The other piece that we're really working on is primary residence. Thanks again to agents out there that are proactively working with their consumers who qualify for primary residence, right? But we need some proof of that in order to lock in that primary rate. So if they legitimately deserve it, they get it. And those that don't, obviously, are floating up now to that uncapped non-primary rate. It's very, very important that agents get ahead of the renewal. I think all of us are aware of that. If you can get ahead of the renewal and make those changes prior, it's a little smoother. If you wait till after the renewal, it can be a little bit tougher to get the rate adjusted. But I wanted to point out, we have been very, very broad in our application of what consumers need to use to prove primary, okay? It's not just homestead. There are a lot of other vehicles, as I'm highlighting down here, that a policyholder can use to show us that they are using that home as a primary residence, and that allows them to get the standard rate and not the uncapped rate. We have quite a bit of education stood up on it. We have webinars that are recorded. Hopefully most of us are through this now. But Dave, when I get through this and flood, I want to take any questions in these areas, but wanted to make sure that everyone's aware of this. We should be getting pretty much through it. The goal here is to obviously get these rates adjusted and get the appropriate rate on these customers. That's why we pushed it out. We didn't wait 12 months. We're pushing a lot of communication to consumers, calling them to action to work with you to get this done. We want to have all of this buttoned up before we really start hitting primary depop season in Q3 and Q4. Everyone with me? Okay, let's get this thing tied down. We know it's brought a lot of you to your knees operationally, but pushing it out, calling the customer to action, everyone's best interest to make sure the rates are appropriate given the consumer status and that everyone's on the same page, okay? Second thing, flood. Just awareness, we're pretty much through the high hazard zone flood requirement. Right now, we're dealing with 600,000 or more. All right, so all of you are dealing with now your renewals. If we don't have flood and proof of flood on those renewals at 600,000, then obviously a lot of you have non-renewals that are out there. If you just demonstrate to us that you've gotten the flood policy, we can lift that non-renewal. And then Christine mentioned upon becoming law, that contents requirement, once we get the governor's signature on it, the contents requirement can go away. So, but this is also something we're hearing every day. Gosh, the Citizens Book is pretty tough to manage, both primary and flood, but these are important public policy decisions and we need to support them. We want to make sure, though, the agents are getting the support you need, both education-wise, underwriting-wise, to make this as frictionless as possible. So Dave, I want to bring those two topics up to see if there's any questions on these two important areas. That
yeah, I knew we would be discussing this, and there was a question that came in about the future effective date. So you have those on the screen. Effective 1/1/27, all structures, regardless of value, if you're in Citizens, whether it's new business or renewal, you will be required to have a flood policy. So that would be the last date going forward. And it stair steps, 24, 25, 26. But in 1/1/27, all structures, regardless of value, will be required.
Right. And what we're doing operationally with agencies is whatever process you've set up in your agency to market and sell to the 6, it's only going to get exponentially bigger as we go down this road. The Citizens average coverage A is probably in that 450 range, 3. So you're going to have more customers impacted by flood requirements next year and the year after. It's not going away.
Yeah.
So hang with us.
Michelle asked, can we go back to the secondary home slide, Carl?
Yeah, please. Sure.
Michelle asked, she thought they removed utility bills as proof, but I see it on.
Thank you, Michelle. Apologies. Yes, this was the original bulletin, but we did send guidance. Utility bills are off the proof. Thank you so much, Michelle, for catching that. Utility bills, for a number of reasons, we just didn't feel comfortable with after the outset of the launch, so we removed utility bill as a piece of evidence of primary. Thank you, Michelle.
Well, Michelle's trying to keep you on your toes, Carl. So
I appreciate that more than you know. Okay.
Well, again, if you have questions about certainly anything, but these last two slides, because Carl and I talk routinely, and these are definitely two topics that we get a lot of inquiries from our members on, and I know the Jeremy's team over there at the call center gets these as well. So any questions, please pop them in the question pane there, and we'll try to get them answered. But I know you just pulled up the screen about the agent field managers, and certainly we talk about this quite a bit, not only at our annual meeting where some of your team is there, but also at different events that you all conduct around the state.
Yeah, and Dave, I can't emphasize this enough. Citizens has invested in an agency field management team. We want to work with agents in ways that they're accustomed to working with other private carriers. Now, we're not trying to grow, right? We're not trying to compete, but we built this network of agency field managers over the years to help agencies out there who just need advocacy, support, consulting, things that if you're out there, I always say agents don't suffer in silence. If you're sitting there at any level with citizens and going, you get us engaged. Okay, these folks can help, they can counsel, they can be your advocates. But on the other hand, Dave, I'll mention, if one of these field managers reaches out to you, take their call, answer their email. Because if they're contacting you, okay, it is in our mutual interest. With me? Okay.
Yeah.
These folks are working proactively to make sure agents don't fall into situations that are just going to be bad for us and bad for them. But if anyone out there is new to the call and doesn't know about this network of people, let this be your entry point. 7 people now we've got on the team. Christiane Shannon's our newest person. Take it easy on Christiane. She's just taking the panhandle now. But a lot of you are familiar with the other folks over the years. They're available. Okay. And they're willing to work with agencies to help. Okay. Now, still, call our call center, call Jeremy, call those frontline people. Generally, things work smoothly, but once in a while, you get a little something, right? You know what that feels like? Get us engaged. Okay, we're here to help and want to make sure that you have the best outcome possible for your agency and for the premium paying customer. Okay?
All right, you ready for some questions?
Please, fire away.
All right, is this new Citizens Reimagined, is this going to change Policy Center? Or will Policy Center website still be the same as far as servicing our policies with citizens?
It will not. The initial introduction will not, but I will signal a change to Policy Center. We are going to be moving Policy Center to the cloud in an updated version. That'll happen roughly Q4. It will change Policy Center UI look and feel, but not the general workflow. Okay, so we're signaling now some changes to Clearinghouse, but you can anticipate some changes to Policy Center after we get this first wave of Clearinghouse done. But to set the expectation, the Clearinghouse process won't change. Some of the look and feel of the screens will. Long term, we obviously want to look at enhancements and things to Policy Center that could make things faster. But our first thing is obviously to get it off its current platform and into the cloud. So I'll signal Dave more to come on Policy Center.
Okay.
More to look at the side, but
All
nothing
right,
immediate. A lot of notes.
Scott wants to know, is there a way to reduce the duplicate document uploads on new business? If we have a 4-point, often that will be used for 4-point photos and roof permit. We are now uploading the 4.3 times. Any way to avoid that?
There probably is, Scott. I'd want to kind of drill down. I asked Scott to pick his county and pick his field manager, or get me, just let us work with that individually. I'd like to see what you're doing that's facilitating that and give you maybe some tips and tricks. Okay, so I don't want to freestyle that. That could have 2 or 3 different outcomes, Dave. But if Scott would be so kind as to contact whatever field manager is associated with the county he's in, we will give him some help.
All right, just to clarify, the July-ish rollout will give us the ability to shop multiple carriers as a captive agent. It's the only way we can place any business outside of Citizens.
Yeah, the best way to describe it is when we stand up the first version of EasyLinks, if you're appointed with a carrier, and some of you were appointed with the old clearinghouse carriers, you just can't get to them, right? This machine will give you the ability, if that carrier is on the platform, and there's a lot of carriers on the platform, you'll be able to link back and get to those carrier quotes and also bridge into those carriers as long as you have an appointment with them. So that is true.
What if you don't use a rater, Carl? Currently don't use a rater for your.
Well, here's the transition that we're going to work through with agents. Okay. It's okay if you don't use a rater, but in order to qualify someone for Citizens homeowner, condo, or dwelling, right, we're going to need proof that you've presented that to EasyLinks and that you have popped that offer out to the carriers you're appointed with, and you'll send that proof into us manually. Okay? It's okay if you don't use a rater, but the platform we're going to stand up for you, well, it's a rater. Think of it as it's really the clearinghouse platform. Okay? It's the thing we need you to adopt to make sure that your new business submissions are valid and that we've done the eligibility work. Okay? Right. So think of it, if all you use it for is citizen submissions, that's perfectly appropriate. That's all. You don't have to use it for any other purpose. Right.
I think you may have had a slide on this. What percentage of residential depop offers are actually being depopulated or moved out of Citizens? I think you had a slide on that that talked about the percentages.
I think this might be the slide deck.
Yep,
I think this is probably the closest I have. Right?
Yep.
So to address that question, we'll start here with the number of offers that are made. 120, for example, for the year, 182,000 customers, right, were mailed something, offering them. Some companies, sometimes there's multiple offers. Ultimately, 63% of those ended up out of Citizens, net of reweights and other things. So this would be 182,000, and 114 ended up getting assumed, 63%.
Angela wants to know, Carl, what proof of primary residence can be provided on a newly acquired property bought by a person that just moved to Florida? You know,
the good news is,
got 1,000 people moving here a day. So how are we handling that?
We got that, and I would ask her two things. When you appropriately tell us in Policy Center that it's a new purchase, Policy Center will spit out a form. Not returning depop. Policy Center will spit out a form that says, I'm a new purchaser, sign here. We built in a process exactly for that customer who's buying a home that hasn't done homestead. It's a Policy Center routine. Get with your field manager and he will tell you how to make sure that you're doing the right steps in Policy Center. But the headline is, if you're buying a home, you just need to tell us you're buying a home and attest that you're buying a home, and you get primary. It's done. Okay?
Okay. Well, folks, I know it's 10 o'clock, and certainly I know everybody's busy. If you got to jump off. But I will tell you, we got a list of questions here that a lot of people will be interested in, and we'll certainly do the best we can. But I think if you can stay on for a few more minutes, Carl, Christine, are you guys good to answer a few more?
I certainly can hang, Dave.
Okay. Sure. All right, here we go. Will today's PowerPoint be available to this group? Will you guys share? Yes. Okay. Yes. Lori wants to know that. Good seeing you, Lori, online. Look forward to seeing you in person. Will the new clearinghouse include mobile homes?
Initially, no, it will not.
Okay. This new Citizens Reimagined, Carl, will not prohibit agents of using another comparative rater, correct?
No, not at all. Not at all. The distinction is, in order to certify that you have shopped it, initially what we have is you're going to need to go to our rater, our EasyLinks, to do that. But you don't need to blow up leads. There's no need to do that if it's part of your operation. Yep. The best way I would explain it, remember when we had the old platform, you had to go to a platform to submit the business to us. This is similar, but should be easier and will have more carriers on it. Okay, that's the difference between old and new.
All right, Edward wants to know, will Citizens continue to produce the list of impacted policies through 1/1/27 for flood requirements?
Yes, we are working through a couple of nuances there on how to get it to you, but our intention would be that, and then if anyone has any demand for that, let your field manager know, and we have a way of getting that to you kind of ad hoc. But we want to continue to give you guys visibility on who requires flood insurance so you can get ahead of it. We're just looking at maybe some different ways to administer it, maybe through Salesforce or a different email platform. But if anyone out there is interested in it, just let us know.
All right, David wants to know, Carl, will you be rechecking for flood policies each year at renewal? We have received non-renewals again for some that were handled last year and are having to resubmit again.
Yeah, apologies for that. A little glitch here and there. Okay, I'll acknowledge that. But we are not requiring you to re-upload or reattest on renewal. Okay, that is not the program. All right, the customer is attesting that they're going to keep it in force, so we have that on record. With me?
Yeah.
Okay. But no, and apologies for some of you that have experienced some non-renewals where it might have given you the impression. That's on us. We've cleaned that up. We should be well past that. If anyone's still experiencing that, let your field manager know quickly. But Dave, the flood program, once you've done it, both at new business or certified once at renewal, we're done. Okay.
All right, and then let's just end on this, Carl, because I know everybody's kind of having to jump off anyway. Will we be able to, I think you've kind of answered this, but just to clarify, right now, the Applied EasyLinks platform is the only way right now that agents can access Citizens Reimagined right now. The future may give something different. People are asking about, adding the Citizens stuff on alternative platforms.
And we'll acknowledge that that's something that we anticipate the agents asking for. I want to signal right now that we're fully committed to what you're seeing here, and we're just going to need to better understand what the other opportunities are and where that might lie. So I don't want to signal to the agents that coming soon to these other raters, okay? Yeah. But we do acknowledge. But right now, we need everyone really getting onto the adoption of EasyLinks for at least the Citizens business, and that's the direction we're headed.
Okay. All right. Well, let's end it there, and we will have the list downloaded, and we'll get everybody that was on the call today the PowerPoint from Citizens, so you can share with your team, because that's the other part of this is, right, Carl? We want this information to not only be with many of the agency principals that are on here, but certainly distribute that to the staff so everybody's aware of what's going on and what they can look forward to in the future with these changes that are coming.
Yeah, and absolutely. And we'll be at convention, Dave. We'll have our booth. We'll have a class. So we're looking forward to seeing a lot of you at convention. Please stop by.
Okay.
And watch for webinars, education. And the big thing, guys, is this new clearinghouse platform is coming. So a wave of communication. Please jump on board. We got a lot to share with you.
And the last thing I'll say on that, some of you may or may not be aware, but Citizens has certainly done a lot of work behind the scenes with agents, the agent roundtable, to test the system, right? So they're putting it through its paces now before it comes online. So hopefully any concern people are having will get kind of looked at through the through the demo process, so to speak. Right, Carl?
Yes, absolutely. We have a pilot group, and we also have a great partnership with Applied to make sure that everything runs smoothly. But we've got some agents selected for pilot that are very good to us, that are going to be, I think, very candid. Let's put it that way.
Yes, well, that's
we rigorously do. Yeah, absolutely. So we're very committed to making sure that we run those steps, and you'll be hearing more about that as the weeks go on.
All right. Well, again, thanks to Carl Rockman, Christine Ashburn, and the rest of the Citizens team for being involved in Friday Morning Live. This was a great session, as they always are, but there's a lot of change. And so please look for stuff on the FAIA site and anything you get from Citizens about some of these upcoming features and changes that will impact agents and ultimately customers going forward. But thanks for attending Friday Morning Live today. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the weather, and we'll see you next time on Friday Morning Live, May the 10th. Take care.